A girl noticed something strange while riding in a car. The driver, who was originally in the driver's seat, suddenly turned into a bald man calmly wiping down the car's dashboard with a cloth, as if the car belonged to him. Meanwhile, her two friends in the back seat were still unaware, laughing and joking around. As Casey grew more puzzled, the friends in the back finally noticed the mysterious man. The man suddenly put on a mask, pulled out an unknown spray from his pocket, and started spraying the two people in the back seat. Casey, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, didn't dare to make a sound. The man seemed to ignore her entirely and didn't attack her. She carefully reached out to open the car door, but just as she was about to do so, the next second, he saw and put his mask on and attacked her. When they woke up again, they found themselves locked in a dark basement. The three of them had no idea what had happened or what the man wanted. Suddenly, there was a noise at the door. The man entered, carrying a chair. Before sitting down, he pulled out that same cloth and wiped down the chair, as if he were an extreme germaphobe. The man looked refined, dressed meticulously. Then after a while he grabbed a girl and pulled her. Marcia screamed in fear and frantically broke free from the man's restraints. Casey told her to pee on herself, but the man was able to put her in next room and locked the door. However, it was only brief. After a few seconds, the man brought Marcia back and then stormed out in a fit of anger. Indeed, Casey's method worked. Marcia's thermal pants were soaked through. They thought they had figured out how to deal with the kidnapper and began discussing how to work together to escape. Claire said she had been practicing martial arts since she was young, and as long as the other two were willing to cooperate, she was confident she could subdue the kidnapper. Marcia decided to join the team, but Casey remained very calm and believed they should think carefully. Acting rashly might lead to a fatal blow. She believed that their opponent wouldn't be easily defeated. As they were arguing, there was another noise outside the door. They heard a woman arrive, and it seemed she was talking with the kidnapper. Hearing the noise, the three of them hurried to the door and began shouting for help through the crack. The woman suddenly walked toward the door, but as soon as it opened, the three were stunned. The kidnapper had changed into women's clothing and with a shy expression, told them not to be afraid, promising to protect each of the girls. The three stared in shock at the person in front of them. After the woman spoke, the door was closed again. Only Casey realized that the kidnapper might have a split personality. But as they were discussing this, they heard the door opening again. This time, the man reverted to his previous germaphobe persona, holding a plastic bucket, and ordered the girls to come to the bathroom. Their task now was to clean the bathroom until it was spotless. He then proceeded to explain why he was making them do this. The girls listened in confusion as he rambled incoherently, unsure of who this so-called mastermind he mentioned actually was. It turned out that the man was a severe schizophrenic with as many as 23 different personalities residing within him. These personalities included men, women, and even children. Among them was a primary personality responsible for controlling the appearance and timing of the other 22 personalities. The main personality was named Barry. Only the personalities he wanted to emerge would surface at his command. The kidnapper Dennis was one of his dark personalities, controlled by the primary personality Barry. Barry was a genius fashion designer who visited his psychiatrist weekly for consultations. The psychiatrist often praised his design talent and even helped introduce wealthy clients to purchase his creations. Barry was elegant and well-mannered, fully aware that his other personalities could make mistakes. Therefore, he hoped that the doctor could cure his illness as soon as possible. Whenever he found himself unable to control the other personalities, he would email his doctor for help. What surprised the doctor was that during her study of Barry, she discovered that not only did Barry's multiple personalities differ in age, gender, and character, but also that when one of the personalities was stung by a bee, the others felt nothing. They did not experience pain or allergic reactions. Furthermore, Barry could use both hands to write different notes with different content simultaneously, and each personality had vastly different physical abilities. In other words, they could control the body through the will of each personality. The doctor initially believed that through his treatment, Barry's condition had been effectively controlled, and the symptoms of his dissociative identity disorder were gradually diminishing. However, to her great surprise, one day the kidnapper Dennis, posing as Barry, came to see the doctor. From his behavior, the doctor immediately realized that the man in front of her was not Barry at all but rather his dark personality. Dennis had taken control of the primary personality. The doctor had actually already suspected that the person in front of him was not Barry, but he didn't reveal this and instead decided to continue observing for a while. That night, Casey was suddenly awakened by a noise at the door. She got up and saw that the man had changed into sportswear. Sitting by the door, the group was completely bewildered. The kidnapper now looked like a young elementary school student. Casey realized that the man might not just have a split personality but could be suffering from multiple personality disorder. She gathered her courage and asked the man how old he was. Everything turned out to be as Casey had guessed. The man in front of her was another personality of the kidnapper, and this personality was a 9-year-old student. Casey wanted to ask the boy to help them escape, but the boy said he was scared and started to get up to leave. Casey quickly stopped him, saying she wanted to tell him a secret. The boy, being very curious, came over and put his head close to Casey. After hearing Casey's words, the boy became extremely frightened and even started to cry. No matter how Casey tried to comfort him, the boy still refused to help and ran out without looking back. From their conversation, Casey learned that this house was newly built by the kidnapper and was not yet fully completed, so there might be some gaps in the room. The group quickly started banging around the room. Soon, Claire discovered that a section of the ceiling was hollow. Realizing that there might be an exit above, Claire immediately grabbed a high heel and began hitting the ceiling. Quickly, she made a hole, but it was blocked by a piece of iron mesh. At that moment, the boy came back. The two people inside quickly braced the door to prevent him from coming in. As the boy pushed against the door, Claire finally managed to open the iron mesh above. After all, he was just a 9-year-old child. After banging away in vain for a while, he turned and went out again. Claire took the opportunity to climb through the hole. However, just then, the door was suddenly pushed open with great force. Dennis, the kidnapper, had returned. At that moment, Claire found herself in a dark corridor. She ran at full speed, but unexpectedly ran into a dead end. Seeing a row of lockers ahead, she had no choice but to quickly hide inside. Poor Claire was locked alone in a small dark room. Afterward, Dennis repaired the hole and warned the two that they would never see Claire again. The next morning, the kidnapper had transformed into that woman again and warmly invited the two to the dining room for a meal. To ease the atmosphere, she even played a piece of classical music. At that moment, Marcia saw it as a rare opportunity. While the kidnapper was slicing bread, she suddenly picked up a chair and swung it at him. However, the blow unexpectedly awakened his dark personality. He instantly changed from his previously gentle demeanor to one of intimidation, ordering Casey to return to her room immediately. He then went after Marcia, who was trying to escape but had nowhere to go. Thus, Marcia was also locked in a small dark room, leaving only Casey unconfined. To successfully escape, Casey had to endure. She believed that she would have a better chance of escaping when the child's personality emerged. That morning, Casey woke up to find the man sleeping behind her like a child. Indeed, he had become the 9-year-old child personality, just like most elementary school students. The boy told her that his room had music he liked. He usually listened to Kanye's songs and danced to the music. His room also had a beautiful window. Hearing this, Casey quickly tempted the boy by saying she wanted to see him dance in his room. The boy, looking innocent, agreed and took Casey along. Sure enough, there was a very childlike room in the hallway. As soon as the boy entered, he eagerly turned on his CD player. After playing CD player, he started to dance like a children. He enjoyed to music a lot. His dancing skills revealed a great natural talent. Casey was also shocked. The boy then showed Casey his window, which left her speechless once again. It turned out that what he referred to as a window was just a watercolor painting. Helpless, Casey pleaded with the boy to give her the key to get out, promising to buy him many toys once she was outside. But the boy said she couldn't do that, otherwise, they would punish her. Under Casey's persistent pleading, the boy actually brought her a walkie-talkie. While the boy's personality had not yet switched, Casey quickly tried to use the walkie-talkie to call for help. However, as soon as she heard a response on the other end, the boy changed his mind. During their struggle, Casey gave the boy a hard shove, causing him to cry and run out. Before Casey could explain things to the people outside, the kidnapper Dennis walked in again. Thus, Casey was locked back in her room. Meanwhile, the doctor received a distress email from Barry's primary personality at home. The urgent plea for help made the doctor realize that something was wrong, so she took a taxi to Barry's residence overnight. Coincidentally, Dennis was about to leave, but upon encountering the doctor, he pretended to be Barry and claimed that he had not sent any emails. In fact, the doctor immediately recognized that the man in front of her was Dennis. She demanded that Dennis speak to her honestly. Reluctantly, Dennis took the doctor inside. At that moment, Dennis confessed everything to the doctor, admitting that he had lied previously. He revealed that his personality also included a monstrous entity, which was even larger and stronger than the other personalities and was the true leader of all the personalities. Dennis explained that he was currently serving this leader and preparing special food for him. He intended to go out and search for his leader. Seeing this, the doctor realized how dangerous Dennis was and decided to leave the dangerous place immediately. Before leaving, she deliberately stuffed her handkerchief into the lock and then intentionally searched around the corridor. Sure enough, she found a locked room inside. No matter how much the doctor pleaded, she could not change Dennis's twisted personality. Before the doctor could finish speaking, Dennis used a mist to drug her. He then carried the doctor and placed her on the sofa in a room. Dennis then went to a train station, holding a bouquet of flowers. It turned out that the man's father had died here, and this place marked the beginning of his schizophrenia. He placed the flowers on the platform and then calmly walked into the train car. At that moment, the man's 24th personality, the demonic leader, appeared for the first time. Meanwhile, Casey had managed to pry open the door. Casey arrived in Dennis's room, but unfortunately, there was another door locked tight. Seeing the computer on the desk, Casey immediately went over to try to call for help via the internet. However, the computer couldn't connect to the internet, and the desktop was filled with numerous video files. Curious, Casey clicked on one and was surprised to find that each video file depicted a different personality of the man. There were 23 files showing 23 different personas. At that moment, the 24th personality suddenly climbed onto the roof of a train car and then, like a ghost, jumped down onto the tracks. Bare-chested, he ran through the city's darkness at an inhuman speed. The unconscious doctor woke up and immediately wrote a key piece of information on a note. She then remembered she needed to rescue the girl. Just as she reached the door, she encountered the man transformed into the demonic personality. The man, veins bulging and looking like a beast, was about to attack the doctor. The doctor thrust a knife at him, but the knife broke without harming the demon in the slightest. Thus, the doctor was strangled to death by the demon. In the room, after watching all the videos, Casey finally discovered a clue. She saw that the man had taken a key from a hanger before leaving. She went over, removed the hat from the hanger, and indeed found all the keys to the exits there. Quickly, she unlocked the first door and went outside. She intended to first rescue her two friends, but when she pushed open the door, she found Claire already lying in a pool of blood. Strange noises were coming from another room, so she cautiously approached and opened the door to see. At this moment, the man, transformed into a demon, was feasting on her friends. Both of Casey's friends had already been brutally devoured. Terrified, Casey quickly locked the door from the outside, but before she could open the second door, the demon, locked inside, had already broken through the door. Casey then noticed a note left on the table by the doctor. The doctor wrote that if she shouted Kevin's full name, it would awaken the man's primary personality, as it was the most terrifying memory from his childhood. From a young age, his mother used to shout his name. Just as the demon reached the room, Casey was utterly shocked to see the man climbing the smooth wall with his bare hands, like a gecko. In desperation, she had no choice but to follow the instructions on the note and shout out the man's full name with all her might. Her voice echoed through the room, filled with both fear and hope, hoping that this would awaken the man's primary personality and put an end to the nightmare unfolding before her. However, the man instantly reverted to his original self. Seeing the bodies on the ground, he realized that his other personalities had committed unforgivable crimes. He then told Casey that there was a gun in the cabinet and begged her to shoot and kill him. Just as Casey was about to pick up the gun, the man's other personalities suddenly started cycling through rapidly. In just a few seconds, he shifted between numerous characters: designer, writer, lawyer, child, woman, constantly changing, showcasing an extraordinary display of acting. Seeing that the man was losing his sense of self, Casey quickly grabbed the shotgun. However, all 23 personalities simultaneously appeared, pleading with her not to harm them, as none of them wanted to die. Eventually, the demon personality re-emerged, forcing Casey to turn and run. Fortunately, the handkerchief the doctor left behind allowed her to open the door just in time. She quickly loaded the shotgun as the demon, hanging in the air like Spider-Man, approached step by step. As the demon shattered every light bulb while drawing closer, Casey had no choice but to lock herself inside an iron cage. When the demon charged at her, she fired twice, but the shots had no effect. Instead, they seemed to fuel the demon's strength even more. The demon slowly stood up, grabbed the thick iron bars, and with a single motion, bent them apart. But just as the demon was about to devour Casey, it noticed the numerous scars on her waist. Suddenly, it stopped. It turned out that the demon believed Casey was just like him, a poor soul abandoned by her family from a young age. The demon's ferocious expression gradually softened, and then it let Casey go, turning and disappearing into the darkness. Shortly after, rescuers arrived and helped Casey out of the cage. As she stepped outside, she realized that the entire place was actually a zoo. Casey had become the only survivor among the three.